Let me pull up this article. This article absolutely blew my mind. It's from Neiman Lab, which is like a journalist, college organization. How a conservative comic became the most popular late night host on TV. Gutfeld, Fox News, the most popular late night host. The funny thing about this is that they're very clearly leftists who are trapped in a cult where they lack the ability to see outside of their bubble. And they view Greg Gutfeld's success as an aberration on their system, completely oblivious to the fact that I believe it was Jimmy Kimmel who did blackface. That has never come up. They talk about Gutfeld doing edgy jokes and conservative comedy that the left would find offensive, but the right doesn't care. Yeah, they all used to do that. It's the craziest thing, right? Gutfeld, here's how I imagine Greg Gutfeld and Fox News's, pitch for the show went down before they decided to launch it. Gutfeld walks into the office and they go like, hey, remember when late night comedy was funny? Yes, I do. Okay, there's the show. We'll air at 8. Go for it. That's it. They were like, we're going to do normal comedy like comedy used to be before it was woke. Do normal things Americans like. But late night comedy on the left is just like...
Vaccine. Did you see
the syringe thing with Colbert?
What?
Who watches that and they're like, I relate to that.
I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
Well,
honestly.
Real quick, it's like, remember those cartoons you'd watch when you were a kid about like, you must brush your teeth?
Yes, I knew you were going to say that.
Make
like
holes
in Greece, when they show it like in the 1960s on the drive-in theater, it's like, that's
Right.
what it reminded me of. You know what I'm talking about?
That's what it is. But like adults are watching this. I think it was Mike Cernovich who tweeted that boomers are like the first generation that hadn't moved past adolescence. And I'll tell you this next generation that's watching Colbert as he does these things, they're like permanent children, like toddlers.
I have disliked Colbert's art for 15 years. I made a YouTube video in 2006, which I'm sure you can find on my YouTube channel, where I criticized him for basically lying to people with his, he'd be like, oh, I'm playing a character. But he'd come on and be like, war is good. And he'd do this like weird conservative aberration. And it was like he would lie and lie and lie. And now he got a new job as the Tonight Show host, and he's still trash.
He's doing the exact same thing, but as a leftist now.
Well, if you look at his previous show on Comedy Central, it was actually edgy. It was actually somewhat comedic. It was actually kind of ironic, satirical. He was playing up this kind of conservative personality and questioning a lot of the wars, questioning a lot of the security states, questioning a lot of the intelligence agencies. He even brought up Bilderberg. He literally, I had conversations with him about Bilderberg and other very serious, legitimate issues. I have those videos still on my YouTube channel, luckily, but something changed when he went on the big networks, and he's literally doing big pharma commercials with dancing needles promoting frickin' a medical procedure that he says should be mandatory for everyone to take. Jimmy Kimmel's no better. I mean, all of them regurgitate the same talking points. Jimmy Kimmel was literally trying to make a joke about how people were in the hospital because of of a readily available pill that we can't mention.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it.
Jimmy Kimmel was literally spreading fake news as a joke, saying how gunshot victims couldn't have help at a hospital because everyone there was overdosed on this pill that's readily available that I don't even know if we could say on this platform in fear of possibly taking this video down on this channel down. I don't know. I don't want to... People know exactly what I'm saying. I've been talking about it since last year, by the way.
It's ivermectin.
Yeah.
And YouTube's rule is that you can't recommend it, that you have to inform people it is not FDA approved as a treatment for COVID, and that you should talk to your doctor about what's right for you before, taking any medications, which I
agree with, too.
Yeah, I agree with those statements, right? So it's not like... I think the issue is that bothers me that I often complain about is that you can literally, there are people who go on YouTube and say, don't talk to your doctor, just go to a parking lot at a 7-Eleven. I'm not even kidding.
Right, well, that's that's dangerous.
Yes, some of the biggest YouTubers are like, go down to a local parking lot where they're doing this. And I'm like, I'm tweeting like, hey, you should talk to a doctor, man. Like,
yeah.
And then I love it when the leftists go, that's stupid. The doctor would just recommend the vaccine. And I'm like, then why are you mad at me? Like, okay.
Yeah.
There's something weird about them being like, don't go to your doctor. Like they're mad that I'm telling people to actually consult medical advice.
Yeah.
Maybe because they want people to just walk down to the parking lot without asking any questions about what their medical treatment is.
Just listen to the out-of-touch politicians that are working for the corporate heads. They know what's best for you, not your medical doctor and professional, because, possibly you might have something like antibodies. You might have a medical condition. You might have an underlying condition. Your doctor knows what's right for you. And there's also a purge happening with a lot of doctors being censored, which also needs to be addressed, because when we're reaching a phase where medical data, studies, professionals, experts in the field are being punished for providing raw data. I mean, that's such a dangerous time right now. And then this is.
I don't want to deviate off of the. We're talking about.
Well, I was going to talk about the healthcare workers that were just fired in New York.
We'll get into that too. I just, for those listening, I don't want to deviate too hard. We're talking about Greg Gutfeld and Colbert, and that starts shifting a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I do want to show you the image so you can understand what we're talking about. This is Colbert with dancing syringes called the vaccine. And the weirdest thing is the people who watch the show are probably all vaccinated. They don't need to see this. And the people who aren't are not going to be convinced by this weird behavior that they find strange.
That's literally what I thought of when I watched that clip. I said, nobody like myself or whoever doesn't, because I had COVID. I talked about it on a video.
No one's being convinced by it.
Nobody on the right or
let me show you this real quick. I want to read this for you from the Neiman Lab article. They say hiding in plain sight. Despite its growing prominence, right-wing comedy remains largely invisible in both mainstream and scholarly discussions of media and humor. In part, this happened because social media algorithms don't send users jokes likely to challenge or offend their political sensibilities. Let me just point something out. I follow mainstream media. They talk about mainstream late-night hosts all the time. I follow conservative media. They sometimes will talk about Gutfeld. What happens? I get a balanced news diet showing me what the conservatives are talking about, the moderates and the liberals. And liberals in mainstream media only see what's happening in the liberal sphere. They have no idea what's happening. How does that manifest? You can really tell if someone's in the cult. An American idiot controlled by the media, when it's as simple as, like Phil DeFranco coming out and saying the Covington kids were wrong and bad. When the Covington thing happened, I get sent all these videos like, Tim, look at this. Are you angry? And I saw the video. I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. It was just a picture of a kid. It was a video of a kid with like a drum in his face. And he's like smirking or whatever. And I'm like, what's happening? But people just immediately were like, it's bad because we said so. Even people who were supposed to be doing news. And then I started looking at the live streams. And immediately I was like, I made a video saying the media is lying about the Covington kids. They didn't do anything wrong. And then all of a sudden, one by one, all these news outlets started issuing corrections and updates. But you can easily just look at the personalities even on YouTube or whatever who are in the cult and not paying attention to what's happening outside of their bubble. And the crazy thing is they're getting angrier and angrier. Like I'll bring up Phil DeFranco again because I used to think he was awesome. I was like, this is an independent entrepreneur. Then all of a sudden he's tweeting how he hates people and he wishes harm on them. And I'm like, whatever is in that cult bubble is becoming increasingly angry and violent.
Echo chamber. We also have to realize these people see a different news feed than we do. These people are curated information that's regurgitated that they want to hear again and again. And by and large, late night television is dominated by the same neoliberal, corporatist, big totalitarian talking points, except for a few deviations. One of the most significant ones that is very prominent to me is the guy who looks like my dad, Bill Maher. He does an excellent job. And I don't always agree with him. I don't always agree with him, but I think he does provide some kind of context that does deviate from the agenda, the narrative, and he does start an interesting conversation, even though I don't agree with his opinion on the conversation. At least he starts one.
We got to get Luke, Bill Maher, and Putin together.
He's doing a little better. He's doing a little better. But Bill Maher was also wrong on the Covington kids.
Yeah, of course.
A week after the corrections, Bill Maher came out and was like, what's up with that? And it's like, dude, you're a week, like they've already issued corrections on this. I talked about it, 7 days before he came out and did a show, but I will give him the respect for at least standing up and saying, this is going too far. What's happening to this country? Yeah. And now, you know what really was the bridge breaking, the bridge breaking or the straw breaking the camel's back is Bill Maher issuing a quote where he's like, I'm getting attacked for criticizing the left too much. Huh. Ding, 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 ding. There it is, Bill Maher.
Smart guy.
All of a sudden, you're starting to realize the Republicans aren't doing anything. They're sitting on their hands. It's a waste of our time. They act like they're supporting us. They don't do anything. I don't care for them. Oh, I like what I hear. Like, oh, that's a good agenda item. School choice sounds great. And then what do? Nothing. The Democrats, meanwhile, are like, we're going to burn it down. So what are your options? Bill Maher all of a sudden is criticizing the left because the right, the Republican establishment, does nothing. Oh, Bill Maher could rag on Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I'm sure Bill Maher's in there like, she's a freshman congresswoman. Why do I care? Well, if you want to pile on with the establishment, that's the target.
He's like an observant comedian that talks about the news, but I don't think he's ever claimed to be a journalist or anything like that.
No, of course not.
Yeah, he's just,
Well, he has a late night show that he does every Friday night, and he does have people like Ben Shapiro on. I have a lot of things to criticize Ben Shapiro on, but at least there's another voice from a different spectrum compared to, of course, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, that have the same nonsense again, over again, spreading fake news, spreading disinformation, spreading. I mean, that story about the hospital being overrun with people from poison control. That was an absolutely
in Oklahoma. Or whatever.
in Oklahoma. I
Fake
mean, that
news.
story has ramifications. That story could actually hurt people. That story is having real life consequences. I mean, imagine someone in the third world country who's taken that specific medicine for the specific use, saying, "Hey, I don't want I don't want to be poisoned because of this."
Hold on,
It's ridiculous.
I want to elaborate on that. So
Yeah.
there was a story that went around from large mainstream leftist publications that ivermectin was sterilizing men. Now imagine, so ivermectin is used to treat river blindness. It's a parasite in the eyes. It is not FDA approved for treating COVID, but in Africa, it is considered an essential medication by the UN. Imagine you have a country, right? When they got Ebola in North Africa, you had people fleeing quarantine thinking that these people were coming in and infecting them or killing them or harming them. So they would literally like take Ebola infected bodies and run, and then it would get worse. It would spread. Now imagine you have these people in these villages. It is mostly rural African tribes that have river blindness. And along comes the UN saying, we want to give you this medication to cure you of your blindness. And then they're like, they hear these stories. But on the internet in America, they say it takes away our ability to have children. It sterilizes us. Either that's the most psychotic conspiracy theory I've ever heard, or these people are morons.
crimes against humanity.
No.
Look,
That's
the
what
UN,
that is. Posting that
yes.
information is a crime against humanity.
My point is, the UN is not sterilizing small, poor African tribes. They're trying to cure them of river blindness. I'm not a big fan of the UN and their ineffective, whatever it is they're doing for the most part. But when they're like, we're going to cure river blindness, I'm like, sounds about right. That's what ivermectin does. And then the media comes out with, and it also sterilizes men because it was like a study of 30 people and like 8 had reproductive issues. And now you're going to have, you have the risk of misinformation, freaking people out, and bringing back river blindness.
That's the crime against humanity.
Yeah.
Is posting the misinformation.
Well, if you go on the NIH website and you look at the medical studies surrounding ivermectin, especially even the preliminary ones, I don't want to get this channel in trouble, but just do your own research, do your own homework, and look at the medical studies and make up your own decisions and have those serious conversations with your medical professionals.
It's as simple as, look, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, the censorship. Yes, I will say it right now. There are certain medications YouTube will ban you for recommending, and others they expect you to recommend. No, I don't play any of that game. I don't give financial advice, medical advice, or legal advice. And if you and when people message me all the time saying, "Oh, but my doctor's not smart, my doctor's bad," I'm like, then you've got a bad doctor, man. I have to say it over and over again. People are probably saying, "Tim, you've told us this 50 times." I know, but I got a super chat last week saying the exact same thing where they're like, "But I have a dumb doctor." I'm like, why? Why not go to a doctor that isn't dumb? Have you considered that?
I mean, you're paying for it one way or another, either through your taxes or your insurance. You're paying for that medical care. I don't know why people think that medical care is, something that they're giving to you that's voluntary. It's not. You're paying for it in one way or another. And when we look at our history, especially in the medical field, they have failed us time and time again. And it's important to note, especially with the opioid epidemic, we had very serious problems, very serious ramifications from medical professionals being bought out and lying to people, giving them medications that they knew was bad for them, being given false information, having criminal activities that were literally done by many medical professionals, literally making people heroin addicts all over this country.
Well, Tuskegee, even Biden brought it up. This Tuskegee experiments, right? It's like, look, man, a healthy individual is skeptical but not overly distrustful. They try to get by. They try to do some research, but ultimately will try to trust the experts. And it's a very, very difficult and narrow path to figure out. But there's personal responsibility in there. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.